to our candles of joy and concerns will be edited out so that we can speak more candidly and personally as a community. Thank you, Linda Harding, for filming and editing our service. Our service today is presented by Reverend Art Loy. Our live music is offered by Rachel Quinn, Erin Finnegan, and our music director, Emily Brower-Melville. Time for All Ages is led by the Reverend Art Loy. Because our services vary from week to week, we suggest you visit us again to experience the variety of worship we offer. We invite you to join us for fellowship and refreshments after the service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever you believe, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, let us walk together this hour.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the Reverend Arthur LeBoy. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm happy to welcome everyone here this morning and also to offer a special welcome to any who are watching online on our YouTube channel or on public access television. A couple of things that are happening this month is that there will be a slightly different Advent ritual. We are going to do something to ritualize the 4 Sundays of Advent in the Christian calendar. So that will be our centering moment throughout the month. And we are going to do a progression of light this month. So the lights are on, the tree isn't lit. For the first Sunday of Advent, we are going to try and stay to show this progression from darkness to light that is part of this month and part of our Advent time together. So I invite you to pull out for our centering moment the Advent ritual that you should have in your order of service. When we get, I'm going to read the first couple of paragraphs. Alex is going to lead the responsive reading. And so when we get to the responsive reading, please read the parts that are in italics. And then there is a place where we will read everything together. And then sing a verse of O Come, O Come Emmanuel that's printed there. Okay? Advent is a time of preparation for some glorious thing that is to come. We human beings, in spite of all that has happened to us and been done by us, are faithful to our ideals and the belief that better things are possible. Something new, something vital, something promising is always coming. There is always an air of expectation around us. Thus, in Advent, we light candles to mark the time of preparation, and with each new light, our anticipation grows. Advent is a time of anticipation, and as long as we expect, as long as we have faith in our hearts, someone will light a candle against the prevailing darkness, and neither the winds of hate nor the gales of evil will extinguish it.
The word Advent means waiting or coming. We are always waiting, expecting, anticipating the coming of the next miracle that will touch our lives and save our world. This season of Advent also anticipates the coming of a sacred child who will bring love to the world.
We know that every child is sacred, that we all are born to lost passion. But how do we do this? How do we bring to life the presence of God among us? How do we accept that the Holy is present in
This Quiet Life by Carlena Will. In this quiet life, some of us are subtly changed in ways not visible to the unaccustomed eye. Our bodies soften, tongues like tired soldiers rest, hands release dew. Take up praise, consider prayer. Thoughts slow, and in letting go, take wing. Anatomy is rearranged. The heart has ears. We hear what words cannot convey, a sacred silence.
Our opening hymn is number 55, Dark of Winter. There are some hymnals on the card in the back, and there's some on the front too, if you don't have a hymnal. Please rise and body and rest here. And say the words with me that are in your order of service. Law is the spirit of this church, and service is law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated. So, we are just a few weeks before Christmas. 3.5 weeks, I guess, we're at this point.
Like 2, 3.
But one of the things that we notice is that we are still in a time where the days are getting shorter, the nights are getting longer, and there is all of this encroaching darkness, and to accompany it, sometimes, there is silence. Now, how many of us get uncomfortable with silence sometimes? We have all our devices and the radios on, TV, whatever, and just being in silence for a period of time can be challenging for us. We don't know where our head's going to go. And it can kind of be unnerving, right? So today we're going to get some practice with a 5-minute Buddhist meditation that Alex is going to lead us on after my homily. And we want everyone to, sometimes in the silence stuff comes up, and you can hold on to it or you can let it go. And some of that practice that we want to have today is about letting go of some of the stuff that moves through our head so that we can focus on some deeper issues. And as we begin this period of time in the weeks before Christmas, I think it's important, for me anyway, to have time for silence amid the hustle and bustle and all the craziness that's going on around us, so that this season can have more meaning for me anyway. I don't know the few children that are here. If you want to stay, you can. If you want to go up to the nursery with the fire, you can do that too. Lindsay will take over whoever wants to go over with.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Robert Benson leads retreats and workshops on spirituality and writing. In his book, Living Prayer, he writes, "Freelance copywriting and editing projects were what I did at the time to make a living. For me, it was the writer's equivalent of taking in the laundry. My studio was pretty much covered up with piles of paper, mountains of stuff. I had been given a chance to ghostwrite a book, and I discovered that it was pretty hard to write a book in the same room where all the other work I was trying to do was calling out to me at the time about deadlines to come and the money to be collected." Frederick Buchner tells of how he wrote for years in a Sunday school classroom at a church near where his little girl went to school. "I looked across the field that morning and decided to give the pastor of the little church a call to see if they would let me work there. It was astounding to me, but they said yes. I would be welcome to come and write there." And so began a stretch of some months of rising early and doing the things that it took to help get the young children to daycare and preschool and so forth. And then over to the church to spend some time in the sanctuary alone with my books, reading from the saints and the scriptures, reciting the psalms, whispering the prayers, and scribbling in my journal. After a while, I would go upstairs to write until it was time to go and pick up the children and head off home. Somewhere, an ancient rhythm began to resonate within me, calling me, drawing me, compelling me to join in the general dance. I seemed then, and still seem, to have no control over my heart's response to that rhythm. Like the way one's feet start tapping even if one tries. But sitting there in that place, in that quiet, about 4 rows back from the front, and over to the left, where a window let the morning light in, so that I could see what I was reading, I slowly began to be changed by the steps in the ancient dance. I began to learn to be comfortable with the silence itself, and to come to see it as a presence rather than an absence. I began to learn to let my mind wander aimlessly until it came to rest, and later to detach myself from the places where it had wandered so that it might rest in the presence. I began to learn to pray with a pen in my hand, scribbling in a journal the scraps and fragments of prayer and remembrance and story and recollection that came to me. I began to read the Psalms in a regular pattern and brought them around again and again until they began to reveal their mysterious power to become the prayer of my heart on the days when I would not have been able to find my own words to describe or express the joy or wonder or despair or fear that was inside of me. I began at last to try to pray for someone other than myself, making lists of names and muttering them up into the darkness, though I was not sure of what those people needed or wanted or even where they were most days. And it began to change in me, ways that I did not even notice at the time, and still cannot completely explain. But there is no doubt that I was being drawn deeper and deeper into something larger and larger.
one time, she was the music director at the Arlington Street Church in Boston. We had a few of her other pieces. Spirit of Life, which we sing most regularly, and I'll remember some of them. One of my favorites, which is "The Little Land," is also something that she wrote. So we're delighted whenever we can find something of hers. Have you noticed how the sun hangs low in the sky these days? It almost appears that the sun is tired and has to work so much harder to rise into the sky. And then it seems like mid-afternoon, it drops, rather suddenly out of sight, as if exhausted from its heavy labors. Remember, not so long ago, how the summer sun lingered in the night sky and seemed never to want to set. The light has changed, as it does every year at this time, bringing with it a silence and a stillness. I don't know about you, but this change in the light sends a chill up and down my spine. It happens every year. The chill has little to do with the chill in the air, and everything to do with being less comfortable with the encroaching darkness. We do fear the dark a lot, don't we? And often the silence itself. And there are good reasons for some of that fear. It can be dangerous to be out on a dark night by ourselves. But I often wonder about the inner darkness and inner silence that may sometimes ask us to face deeply buried feelings that we might fear even more. And so we fill our lives and our minds with lots of activity and noise to keep from exploring some of those deeper feelings. What happens to you, or to me, when we have time to be alone with ourselves? What feelings emerge in the shadows of our silence? Perhaps we continue to hold in our psyches the ancient fears of early peoples that the sun might not return. Perhaps we hold in our bones the fear that if we travel within too deeply, we might not be able to return. Perhaps we fear that our pain might be too deep and too overwhelming. Maybe we're frightened by whatever unknown is within us and how our lives will change if we face and deal with it. Emily Dickinson writes, "There is a certain slant of light on winter afternoons that oppresses like the weight of cathedral tunes. Heavenly hurt it gives us, we can find no scar, but eternal difference where the meanings are. None may teach it anything. 'Tis the seal, despair, an imperious affliction sent us of the air. When it comes, the landscape listens, shadows hold their breath. When it goes, 'tis like the distance on the look of death." But you know, if we look at the world of nature, the plants and animals alike, which are often smarter than we are, we see that they need this fallow time, this darkness and silence, in order to gather and nurture the energy to grow again. The beauty that we see in spring and summer cannot happen without the dark and cold of winter. Did you know that lilac trees, which are plentiful in this part of the world, they need the ground to freeze in order to bloom? I learned this when I attended seminary in Berkeley, California. There was a house about a block away from the school that had a lilac tree. The owner must have been from the East Coast because the lilac trees don't happen in that part of the world. Every morning during the winter, she would bring out a couple of bags of ice and put them around the base of the tree so that she could see a few lilac blossoms in the spring. In our apprehension, we see the shadows of the dark, the silence of our quieted mind as an absence, and a loneliness that is itself painful. We fail to see that we are not alone. As Robert Benson states in our reading, the silence can offer us a presence that embraces us, changes us, and helps us to feel safe in our solitude. He writes, "If we are to live lives that enable us to hear more clearly who we really are, then we will have to move to a rhythm that is superior to the ones we have fashioned for ourselves, or the ones a consumer society has foisted upon us." We all have certain rituals that help organize our lives, don't we? You might not think of them as rituals, but we seem to follow the same ritual patterns, for example, when we get up in the morning and when we go to bed at night. And throughout the day, there are other times when we have a certain way of doing things, and our day doesn't feel quite right when our schedule is altered. What are your rituals? Do they work for you? Or might this be a time, this fallow time in our lives, to be a time to think about reorganizing them? My most important morning ritual is one of reading and journaling. I go down, I start the coffee, and then I sit with a book of meditations or whatever I'm working my way through. The UUA has lots of these wonderful meditation manuals. Val, your sister, wrote a couple of them, actually. And so I read, I reflect, and then I pick up my journal and I write something. And when I begin to feel that the darkness, the anxiety of too much to do, when that touches me, I often realize that I've skipped a morning or two. I haven't been following the ritual pattern that works for me to get my day started and put my head in the right frame of mind. In the night, in the silence just before dawn, in the presence of quiet light, when we breathe into the center of our souls, we can find rest and stillness, hope and comfort, answers to questions asked and not asked. In the sacred darkness, we prepare ourselves to meet the God within, the sacred presence, Emmanuel, that is waiting to be born in our hearts, bringing hope and faith and love to broken hearts and a broken world. Amen. And blessed be.
So we're now going to have a short period of silent meditation. This is a listening meditation, and it's an alternative to the traditional breath-based meditation that's often taught to folks who get really uncomfortable when they become aware of their breath. So what we're going to do is we're just going to listen. We're going to listen 100%. We're going to listen to the silence. We're going to listen to the darkness that Art just spoke about. And so, what I'd like you to do, please sit up straight and tall and close your eyes and just listen. Let's begin now.
hymn is Joyful is the Dark, number 275 in the Great Hymnal. Please rise and body.